How to become a gentleman villain. Archbishop Verdio said, "We will not be able to stop the Holy Lance Dragon. Did you think that after all this time I would believe you? The Order will make a miracle happen today, and all of humanity will once again bow before our Lord and God, Telos." As Adele said to herself, the Order's arrogance and the Holy Lance Dragon's revival, the only way to put an end to this would be to offer the life of a saintess to the rune of sacrifice. The life of a saintess. The life of a saintess. I had nothing to regret. This was meant to be my duty to begin with. However, the blessing of holy magic protected me. It called upon the effectual magic within me with its greatest power and rewound the world's time. With a body just barely recovered enough to survive, I opened my eyes in the hall leading to the combat training room in Glocked Hall. The blessing of holy magic would lose its power once I ran out of holy power anyway, and the Holy Lance Dragon would be sealed. And so, I repeated my walk down this hall. That arrogance repeated itself. The Holy Lance Dragon was revived, and in the worship hall, after everyone had left to find Clarice, I placed myself in the rune of sacrifice again and again. This is my punishment. I should have never passed my duties off to someone else. Thinking about it that way makes it all a bit easier. This will not last forever. There is a limit to holy power, after all. I gave up on convincing Verdio. If it is impossible to stop him. Adele trembles while leaning on the door, and she said to herself, "This time, the moment I enter the cathedral, I will throw myself into the rune of sacrifice without any hesitation. I will stop the revival of the Holy Lance Dragon itself and make sure that none of this comes to pass. I am almost there." Suddenly, Ed Roth Taylor holds her, and she looks at Ed Roth Taylor and said to herself, "But why?" Adele said, What, you?" Ed Roth Taylor said, "I prefer drinking cold water so you can have the orange juice." As Ed Roth Taylor sat her on the bench, Adele said, "Right now, I need to." Ed Roth Taylor handed over a cup and said, "Hey, you are going to die soon." Adele was shocked while holding the cup. Adele, in shock, said to herself, "I remember, Ed Roth Taylor. At the very beginning, he appeared in front of me just once." In the past, Ed Roth Taylor said to her, "You are going to die soon." Adele said to herself, "The world continued just as it was, but aside from that very first time, he never appeared in front of me." At that time, my reply was, Adele smiled and said, "I know." Ed Roth Taylor said to himself, "This conversation feels like an old, distant memory. It feels like I have returned to the beginning. Nothing has changed." Ed Roth Taylor said, "Yeah." And he continued to say to himself, "I have to end this conversation and head to the cathedral. I need to bring an end to everything." Ed Roth Taylor said, "That is it?" Adele said, "What?" Ed Roth Taylor said, "I do not know everything, but you are about to die, and that is all you have to say." Adele said, Yes, that is it." "What is wrong with that? I need to hurry," and Ed Roth Taylor said, "Is that really it?" Adele said, "No, I do not." As Adele said to herself, "I have confirmed it countless times through these unending loops. I will die." I had already known that since long ago. Even back then, there was nothing I wanted to say. As Ed Roth Taylor said before, "Is that it?" Adele said to herself, "I wonder. I feel like I did have something more to say, but I sang instead, and Clarice smiled for me. Was that not enough?" Ed Roth Taylor continued to ask, "Is that it?" Adele, annoyed, shouted, "Jake, just stop, leave me alone." As she remembered her last moments with her father holding the expensive sandwich, she said, "Just leave me." And she said to herself, "I wonder if that was it," as she sat alone on the bench, and her father walked away. Adele smiled and said, "Thank you." Suddenly her vision changed as Ed Roth Taylor asked, "Is that it?" Adele was shocked. As she looked at her father again, she cried and said to herself, "I wonder if it really was." What I wanted to say as I watched my hesitant father's back was not thank you. I wanted to scream for him to stay with me. At the end of these countless lies, Adele trembled and said, "I am scared. I do not want to die." As tears flowed into her cup, she said to herself, as if a dam had broken, the truth came flooding out. Ed Roth Taylor said, "Phew," as Ed Roth Taylor took a sip of his water from a bottle, and he placed it on the bench and said, "Phew, jeez." While Adele continued to cry and tremble, Ed Roth Taylor stood up and said, "You sure had a hard time saying something so obvious." As he rolled up his sleeves, Ed Roth Taylor said, "Tell me everything you know. Let us bring an end to this." A few moments later, Saintess Clarice said, "I will now tell you everything." Saintess Clarice said to herself, "After listening to my story, Senior Ed decided to move separately from me. He decided to go looking for Adele, while I headed to the cathedral. As Taldarak came out of the cathedral, he said, Saintess, Were you not waiting at the Trix Hall? What? Why are you here? Saintess Clarice said to herself. I need to focus. And she said, move aside, Tal'Darik. As she passed him, Saintess Clarice said to herself this time, I will finally learn the whole story. Suddenly, she opens the door of the cathedral and said, stop everything you are doing right now. Holy Pope Eldine, Apostles of Telos, and Archbishop Verdio. Archbishop Verdio said, Saintess Clarice? Saintess Clarice said, Archbishop Verdio, I believed you to be an innocent believer who put the Holy Imperial Capital above all else. Archbishop Verdio said, that is correct. I live only for the sake of the Holy Imperial Capital. Our righteous Lord is always with us above the heavens. But the ignorant populace will never believe that if we do not show them anything. Saintess Clarice said, that is why you want to kill the Holy Lance Dragon and spread that grace. Archbishop Verdio said it will not take long. Saintess Clarice said all of you are underestimating the Holy Lance Dragon. At least consider the possibility of fail. She was shocked and confused as she said no. From the very beginning, you intended to use my life. As insurance, Archbishop Verdio leans closer to her and said it is merely insurance, something that would only come to pass if things do not end well. Outside, Ed Rothtailor pulls Adele and said yes, the truth is not exactly pleasant. Ed Rothtailor said to himself, to put it briefly, for a long time now, the order has been facing declining finances. So that is why the Archbishop revived the Holy Lance Dragon? So that they could make a show of taking it down and strengthen the people's faith and the order's power. Adele said, Archbishop Verdio, I was like this even as a normal priest. Growing the congregation and enriching the Holy Imperial Capital storehouses, that is how the Archbishop proves his faith. Ed Rothtailor said, did you try to persuade the Archbishop? Adele said, as someone who ran away from the Holy Imperial Capital, I have lost all trust. Although he would not listen to anyone else anyway, he would simply use force to make others comply. He brought with him a force that could win against anyone after all. The Apostles of Telos. They are the greatest armed forces in the Holy Imperial Capital, capable of fending off even an army. Archbishop Verdio said, my apologies, Saintess. It will not take very long, so I would like for you to stay asleep for a while. Adele said, considering their strength, there is nothing that can be done. As she closed her eyes, suddenly she realized and shouted, ah, Ed Rothtailor carries her and said, force? Force alone is not a major concern. Adele said, what do you mean? As the cathedral was shit by high-rank electricity magic, divine punishment, from above the stained glass shatters. As Archbishop Verdio was shocked, he looks back and said, who is that? Just who could? Do you not fear the Lord, Telos? Lucy Merrill said without flinching, as a mage of Telos falls to the ground. Nope. Another said in pain, struggling to get free from the magic of Lucy Merrill. Guh. Lucy Merrill magically landed inside the cathedral and said, I am. And she looks at Archbishop Verdio and continues to say with her electrifying magic, an atheist? I do not believe in a god, but I do believe that those who have sinned deserve to be punished for it. Archbishop Verdio said, what? What do you mean by sin? As another apostle of Telos was thrown to the wall, Lucy Merrill said, it is engraved in both your temple and your laws, arrogance. As she charges her power towards Archbishop Verdio, Archbishop Verdio said, just what are you doing? You have turned away from the grace of our Lord Telos. As Apostle of Telos, 6th seat, Lenos shoots his arrows, while Apostle of Telos, 2nd seat, Reuben charges at Lucy Merrill. Lucy Merrill silently looks at them, as Archbishop Verdio shouted, as Telos wills, while Lucy Merrill casually stands and waits for the attacks of Reuben and Lenos. Lucy Merrill snaps her fingers and a barrier blocks the arrows of Lenos and electrifies Reuben from behind. Tal'Darik said, how dare you taint this chapel? As Lucy Merrill looks behind, I am the 3rd seat, the Lightspeed Apostle, Tal'Darik. Tal'Darik cracks his voice while saying, I will be your end. As he charges his spear towards Lucy Merrill, Lucy Merrill said to herself, this was not a matter of speed, and she used her skill, high-rank spatial magic, spatial leap. Lucy Merrill said to herself, but of space itself. As she teleported behind Tal'Darik, as Lucy Merrill flicks her fingers, and Tal'Darik was hit by the powerful thunder of Lucy Merrill, and he said in pain like a little girl, Gah! Archbishop Verdio said to himself, the apostles of Telos are each individually hailed as being some of the strongest people in the nation, and yet, even though there are 6 of them, how is this? No, more importantly, how did she know to attack this place? In order to raise the authority of the order, we plan to revive the Holy Lance Dragon and strike it down. The stage on which this was set happened to be where the students would be, Arkan Island. We could not afford any part of this plan leaking. Regardless, the plan has failed. So if that is the case, Archbishop Verdio said to the Pope, We must secure a path of retreat. Our priority is protecting His Holiness, Holy Pope Eldine. Lucy Merrill stepped forward, her voice cold and unwavering. Running away? She echoed, sparks crackling from her fingertips. As she used her chronistic aspectual magic, time prison, Archbishop Verdio squeaked like a girl, saying, "Eek, Brother Taldarak." Brother Taldarak suddenly shouted from the rubble, "All of this is for the sake of our Lord Telos." He covered for Archbishop Verdio, who was running away. Archbishop Verdio looked behind and said, "Brother Cleve, we must take the Saintess." Cleve took Saintess Clarice and said, "Please pardon me, Saintess." "Ah, what are you doing? Unhand me." Archbishop Verdio muttered to himself, "We must bring the necklace, which is physical evidence, and the witness, the Saintess, with us. If we pressure the Academy using the Holy Pope's authority, then regardless of what that student says, they will be ignored." High-rank electric magic. Lucy Merrill used her skill, divine punishment. Cleve planted his shield on the ground and blocked Lucy Merrill's magic. He shouted like a little boy with a cracking voice, "Ga! Please escape." Lenos carried the Pope away, shouting, "Everyone, escape from here and gather at the agreed-upon location." Cleve carried Saintess Clarice. Archbishop Verdio declared, "Regardless of what may come, the order will be victorious." Lucy Merrill gritted her teeth and muttered, "Tisk, how annoying." The Lady Apostle cried, "Archbishop Verdio, even if we escape like this, we will soon be caught." Archbishop Verdio replied, "It is fine. Even if it is only for a moment, we will destroy the evidence and retrieve the Saintess, and once we inform the Academy of this act of violence, then—" Suddenly, Ed Rothtaylor said, "Ignition." He used his skill, basic magic ignition. The Lady Apostle burned her wings and screamed in pain, "Ga! How could mere basic magic be so powerful?" Suddenly, Ed Rothtaylor's dagger approached her quickly. She swung her spear and deflected the dagger. Ed Rothtaylor used another skill, spirit formula, explosion. The cathedral exploded. A student from a distance said, "What is going on? Is that not where the Academy Chapel is?" Archbishop Verdio ran away while the Lady Apostle lay burnt to a crisp on the ground. Ed Rothtaylor shouted, "Follow me, Mug." Mug responded, "Yes, young Master Ed." Archbishop Verdio muttered to himself, he predicted our retreat and was lying in wait. Is he working together with that witch hat-wearing brat? He used a skill at Ed Rothtaylor, holy spell. Mug took the hit and said, "Ga, my apologies, young Master Ed." Archbishop Verdio continued running while Ed Rothtaylor stopped. A few moments later, in the forest, Archbishop Verdio panted while running. "Ha! He said to himself, "I have lost them. Now, if I hide together with the evidence, the necklace, then it will all be over. Nobody will be able to find me within this dense forest." This dense forest! Ed Rothtaylor caught up to Archbishop Verdio. Ed Rothtaylor said, "The necklace, hand it over." He pulled Archbishop Verdio by the hair and threw him off balance. They tumbled from rock to rock as Ed Rothtaylor tried to take the box from him. Archbishop Verdio gasped, "Seeing that you are aware of the necklace, it looks like you know everything. You sent that mage too, did you not? But now it is over." Ed Rothtaylor kicked Archbishop Verdio in the knee. Archbishop Verdio was shocked and confused. Ed Rothtaylor grabbed his neck. Archbishop Verdio shot holy magic at him, but Ed narrowly avoided it, just an inch from his face. Ed Rothtaylor stabbed Archbishop Verdio. Archbishop Verdio screamed in a high-pitched voice like a girl, "Ga! Grrr!" He hugged the box tightly. Ed Rothtaylor shouted in anger, "Hand it over!" He remembered what Adele had said. Archbishop Verdio is strong. Even without the apostles of Telos at his side, he will not be easy to subdue. Ed Rothtaylor muttered, "I see." He thought to himself, "We are running out of time if we want to stop the Holy Lance Dragon's revival. Not to mention, our enemy has been planning this for a long time. Even if I get Lucy's help, there is a high chance that we will fail. It would be nice if we could turn back time just once more in order to get more information, but given Adele's state," Adele said, panting, "Huff, it is okay." Ed Rothtaylor was shocked. Adele smiled and said, "It is okay if you fail. I can still turn time back a few more times." Ed Rothtaylor thought to himself, "That is a lie. Her power is nearly exhausted, and it would not be strange if she were to drop dead any second now. There is no time to hesitate." Ed Rothtaylor pushed his dagger into Archbishop Verdio. He grabbed the box and panted, "Huff, he muttered to himself, "the magic power. It is still flowing." Archbishop Verdio chuckled, "Heh. Archbishop Verdio, the Holy Lance Dragon will soon be resurrected. The apostles were taken down, so only the Saintess can stop it now. Then all will know. The greatness, cough, of our Lord Telos. Ed Roth Taylor panting, huff, huff. Ed Roth Taylor thinking, the Holy Lance Dragon will soon revive. Now I understand everything. In order to prevent the dragon's seal from being undone, I must subdue Archbishop Verdio and take the necklace outside the island. But the problem is, nobody will remember this. I must relay this information. Adele will have to sacrifice herself once again. But even if we succeed in turning back time, if I do not manage to pass on what I have learned, we will fail again in exactly the same way. Ed Roth Taylor coughing, cough. Ed Roth Taylor thinking despite seeing her true feelings, recalling Adele's words, I do not want to die. In the end, I was too late. Lucy Merrill suddenly arrives. Lucy Merrill, who cares if you were a little late? Ed Roth Taylor coughing hard, cough, cough. Lucy, you need to relay my words, quickly. Adele or Clarice, either is fine. Lucy Merrill helps Ed to stand, then gently lays him at the base of a tree. What? Lucy held up a scrap of paper. It read, you must steal Wellbrock's Fang necklace as quickly as possible and leave the cathedral. Verdio intends to use the Order's authority to cover up the crime. Lucy said, it is not just your mana. The way you use magic itself is incredible. But if you practice enough, you will learn it one day too. Ed exhaled. Phew. Yeah. Thanks. He managed a frustrated grin. Gah. He realized in dread, the Holy Lance Dragon has revived. Rather, I guess it has revived once again, as Wellbrock was summoned anew. Ed Roth Taylor said to himself, everything has come to light. Verdio revived the Holy Lance Dragon for the sake of the Order. The location, method, escape route. I left out a lot in the message. I wonder if Adele, on the verge of collapsing, will be able to rewind time once again. Even if she does succeed, the problem is time. Will I, upon losing my memories, formulate a plan and act faster? Will I be able to evade the apostles, steal the necklace, and leave Arkan Island? Lucy Merrill said, you see. Ed Roth Taylor looks at Lucy Merrill confused. Lucy Merrill said, I made a promise to the old man. I promised that if the academy were ever in great danger, I would protect it at least once. Ed Roth Taylor said, yeah, I know. You told me last time. Lucy Merrill said, yeah. That is why, even if time were rewound again and again, I think I would have faced down that dragon each and every time, without fail. I think you did too. Ed Roth Taylor said, yeah. Lucy Merrill said, I came to this academy to keep my final promise to the old man. But maybe I was here, waiting for this. Now I am done with this tiresome waiting. However, if time is rewound once more, then stopping it would be pointless. As she puts down her magic hat. Ed Roth Taylor said so? Lucy Merrill hugs Ed Roth Taylor and said, then I would rather die in your arms. I am sure we will forget all this either way. This memory will be forever lost. Ed Roth Taylor said, I guess. So, as scales rain down at Ed Roth Taylor and Lucy Merrill, while Lucy Merrill puts up her barrier, Lucy Merrill said, then there is something I want to say, something I could never find the right time to say. Ed Roth Taylor said to himself, her thick walls are collapsing. It is embarrassing, but not very romantic. This very moment itself tells me everything I need to know. It may be that Lucy would never be able to say these words to Ed otherwise. Lucy Merrill cries and said, I cannot live without you, so please, do not go away. As Ed Roth Taylor gently touched Lucy Merrill's head, Ed Roth Taylor said that was not even a particularly difficult request. As Wellbrock shouted, Grah! Ed Roth Taylor said to himself, it began to rain. Neither of them put up any resistance. They did not cry out in pain, nor did they let out even a single groan. They simply felt each other's warmth. A long time later, the rain came to an end, and the two lay there just the same, in each other's arms. A few moments later, as Lucy Merrill's magic hat was torn, a bright light emits. In a different scene, Adele drops her mandolin, and she said in pain, cough, gah, cough. Adele said to herself, my holy power has bottomed out. I can no longer affect the flow of time, and I can no longer peer into the future. I can finally die. In the end, I was not able to stop the Holy Lance Dragon's revival. That I was able to meet Clarice one last time was painful, but it still made me happy. It is a shame she was not smiling. Even if it were a lie, it would have been nice if I had been able to sing for her. On the other hand, my encounter with Ed Roth Taylor was awful. The slightest flicker of the desire to survive destroyed all my resolve. However, this intense agony, in this state where I could die at any second, cough, is what reminds me so naturally of what it is I must do. Move. I must stop the Holy Lance Dragon's revival and make it so that it never happened. I must die according to my predestined fate. I have confirmed what Ed Roth-Taylor's plan is and how it comes to an end. But the plan is impossible. First, Clarice needs time to convince him, given that he would have lost his memories. While he is formulating a plan, the entire morning would go by. He must then acquire the necessary forces to take on the apostles of Telos, and mobilizing them would also take time. However fast he may be, he would likely reach the cathedral around dusk. However, Archbishop Verdio's plans will already be unfolding. Magic power will have already been injected into the necklace, and the Holy Lance Dragon's revival would only be a matter of time. The sun has begun its descent, and the shadows have grown longer. Once I pass this hallway, I will be able to enter the chapel. Now, I have to enter the chapel and offer my body to the sacrificial. As she looks outside the window, she was confused as she was shocked. She saw a huge bird outside. Janica Flaylover was shocked and concerned, saying, "Ed, what is wrong? Are you okay?" As Ed Roth-Taylor drops to the ground, his head in pain, saying, "Gah, gah." Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, Glock's work, Introduction to the Aspectual. For those who have developed a resistance to aspectual magic, as Ed Roth-Taylor said in pain, gah, Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, it will not affect them completely. Adele's magic to rewind time is a combination of aspectual magic and holy magic. The blessing of holy magic offers resistance to holy magic, and as a result, Clarice maintained her memories across time. Saintess Clarice said confused, "Senior Ed?" Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, perhaps it was because Adele has lost her strength, or perhaps it was because I was researching aspectual magic. As Ed Roth-Taylor said in pain, gah, as his whole body trembles. And he said to himself, but immediately prior to my regression, the aspectual magic within my body resisted Adele's aspectual magic. As he opened his eyes and said to himself, and as a result, my memories and experiences did not disappear into time. As he remembered, crushed to death by rubble, pierced to death by fragments of window glass, or slashed to death by scales, slowly bleeding out to death, burning to death. Ed Roth-Taylor grins and blood came out of his mouth as he said to himself, I feel like I am going crazy. Janica Flaylover said, Ed? Saintess Clarice uses her holy magic at Ed Roth-Taylor, saying, Senior Ed. Ed Roth-Taylor suddenly holds her delicate wrists as he sat up and said, It is a race against time. Archbishop Verdio said soon, the Holy Lance Dragon will revive. And through the grace of the Lord Telos, Ed Roth-Taylor said we have to move as fast as we can. Archbishop Verdio said, the order will rise to glory once again. As the eagle hovers above Archbishop Verdio. And it rushed towards Archbishop Verdio. Ed Roth-Taylor said, we have to go to the Academy Cathedral. As Ed Roth-Taylor arrived behind Archbishop Verdio. As Ed Roth-Taylor took the fang necklace inside the box. Ed Roth-Taylor said and seized the fang necklace. Archbishop Verdio looks behind and said, you dare, stop him, Brother Lenos. As Lenos shoots arrows at Ed Roth-Taylor dodged and said to himself, throughout those endless loops of time, the beginning was almost always the same. Saintess Clarice would drag me into her carriage. She would tell me about the time loop and my service number, and I would travel in the carriage, organize my thoughts, and take some time to understand the situation. Archbishop Verdio said, I do not know who you are, but do you truly believe you can win against the holy apostles of Telos? As Lenos shoots more arrows at Ed Roth-Taylor. Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, however, the answer was always beside me. As Janica Flaylover took out a magic staff. A gust of wind blows towards Archbishop Verdio, Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, while looking at the back of Janica Flaylover. Ed Roth-Taylor continues to say to himself, faster than the carriage, and far stronger than me, someone who could help me in this ridiculous situation, without any explanation required. As Archbishop Verdio looks above, Ed Roth-Taylor said to himself, was always beside me. Janica Flaylover said, let's go, Ed. Thank you so much for watching. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to help me grow my channel. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to leave a comment below. I love hearing from you. Let's keep the conversation going and get those analytics buzzing. Until next time, take care.